Okay, let's talk about imposter syndrome at work. I had acute imposter syndrome paralysis during my early years of my career. And sometimes it still creeps up on me again during challenging times at work. So I wanted to address imposter syndrome. I know there's multiple videos, there's lots of articles on it out there, but I just wanted to address it from my point of view. What is imposter syndrome? It is this very internalized belief that you don't deserve to be where you are, that you are undeserving of all of your accomplishments and the respect and the high regard in which you are held, and that somehow you gained your role or your accomplishments through tricking people into believing that you are smarter or more capable than you actually are. My imposter syndrome stemmed from a very low self-esteem and a belief that I did not belong. It is all generally tied into the fact that I grew up undocumented and the fact that I was forced to hide myself and make myself as small as possible so that I would not be paid attention to and they wouldn't figure out that I didn't belong. It stemmed from having a different culture and a different mentality from those around me and constantly feeling like an outsider because I didn't believe in Santa Claus or I hadn't watched the Sandlot movie and instead I grew up watching El Chavo del Ocho. And this followed me throughout my entire life. The constant doubt of my intelligence and constantly believing that my peers were way ahead of me, were much more intelligent than me. They understood everything way better than I did because English was my second language. They understood the culture, the references, and doubting my ability to be accepted into the best engineering program in the nation. She only got accepted because she got a lot of help in those classes. She had a boyfriend that was super smart and helped her get onto the dean's list when she was in college. That's the type of message that I would hear. And even now, she only got that role or she only got that opportunity or she only got that salary because she's Latina and she's a woman and they needed to meet their diversity quota or their inclusion target. Those are still things that I hear today. You hear that kind of stuff enough in your lifetime, you kind of start believing it. Now I realize that my overcompensation and my addiction to validation from work that made me a workaholic stemmed from that very, very strong imposter syndrome that I had. And overcoming that imposter syndrome took a lot of work. I essentially had to rewire my brain and reframe the way that I thought. And I had to become more attuned with my sense of self, my identity, and I had to start giving myself credit for my accomplishments, actively giving myself credit for my accomplishments. So have you ever heard that you're not your thoughts, that you get to train and really establish your thoughts, and that is who you are? Our minds have a lot of plasticity. I think that's the right word. And we essentially get to restructure the way that we think about ourselves by putting in the work. So here are the steps that I took to rewire my brain and get over my imposter syndrome. Well, at least start getting over my imposter syndrome. I work on it every single day. The first thing that I did was essentially change my worldview and becoming proud of who I was and my culture. I stopped thinking of being undocumented as this big taboo, this big secret about myself that I had to keep. And instead, I actually became proud of it. I became proud of my parents' struggle to find a better life for their children. Yes, I was undocumented. So what? My next step was to do the same for my identity, my sense of self. I embraced how loud I was. I embraced my strong character, my strong personality, and stopped being afraid of putting myself out there and being seen, and stopped caring about others' opinions because of whom I was. I just stopped caring about others. I just was me and I embraced me. Next step was to understand that, yes, the competencies among those surrounding me varied a lot, but everyone is just trying to figure it out just as much as you are. So that was my next step, just understanding, yeah, everybody's capabilities are different. Everybody's competencies are different. Everybody's levels of intelligence are different. Some people are better at one thing. You might be better at the other thing that they're not so great at. And just understanding that and internalizing that nobody knows what they're doing and they're just trying to figure it out just as much as you are. Then I had to practice giving myself credit. I had to practice to kind of stroke my ego a little bit. You know, in grad school, I always thought that the people there were of a much higher class than I was, that they were much more intelligent than I was. But guess what? I was keeping up. I got several job offers before graduation, and I just didn't give myself enough credit. I didn't think of that as something that was deserving of credit, I guess. I just did not believe that I deserved it, that somehow I had tricked the people into giving me a job, that somehow I tricked the professors into giving me an A, and it was all just deception, and I was an imposter, and nobody had figured out that was deceiving everyone, which wasn't true. You just had to rewire your brain, understand your accomplishments, be proud of your accomplishments, give yourself credit. And then after that, it's just practice and repetition. Practicing, embracing myself in front of others, with others, and being proud of who I was, and then just constantly learning about myself even more so I can embrace myself even more throughout the years. And then repeating in my head again and again, everyone's just trying to figure it out. Everyone's trying to figure out work. Yes, some people have more experience than you. Some people are smarter than you, but you get to learn from them. They get to learn from you on places where you're more competent from, and repeating that to yourself every single day, every single time you run into a challenging moment at work and you start doubting yourself and that imposter syndrome starts creeping back in, just kind of rewiring your brain or working with yourself, meditating, journaling, whatever it is that you need to do to internalize that we're all just figuring it out and you are part of that ecosystem. Practice, repetition, and then again, that award you won, that salary you got, that role you got, you worked for those. Remember all those hours that you put in? Remember all that overtime you put in? Remember all the work you put in, all the solutions you figured out? Give yourself credit for that because you worked for all of your accomplishments. You deserve the money. You deserve the award. You deserve the promotions. Don't lose your humbleness, right? Always be humble, always be kind, always be compassionate. You just need to stroke your ego a little bit and give yourself credit for the stuff that you've accomplished without it being diminished. It's also nice to hear it from external voices, you know, from your best friend, from your mom, your therapist, whoever you need to hear it from, just that validation and giving yourself credit and reminding yourself to give yourself credit. That's also useful. I think I definitely used that to help me out of my imposter syndrome. And practicing just ignoring those voices, those negative voices that are trying to drag you back into doubting yourself. All right, that's it. Those are all my thoughts on imposter syndrome. Just wanted to make this quick little video on imposter syndrome and put those thoughts out there. Remember that everything is hackable. You can figure out a way out of having that imposter syndrome. It takes time, it takes a lot of time, honestly. It takes years to practice yourself out. And again, sometimes it comes back, it creeps back in, and you still got to practice and internalize that you deserve to be where you are. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.